Welcome to the Deucecast Extra. We are live on a Tuesday night to talk about Loki Season 2, Episode 2, Breaking Brad. This one was directed by a veteran of the MCU, Dan DeLue, who is a visual effects supervisor, second unit director. If you look up his stuff on IMDb, he has been working in the MCU for quite a long time. That is one thing that I am already noticing about this show is the quality is just far better than a lot of Disney Plus shows in another Disney-owned franchise, that being Lucasfilm. I just feel like there's more extras in every scene. I mean, it just feels like an actual show, and they're actually trying, and it's not sparse.
Yes.
So I appreciate that, at least from these first two episodes. Ryfin, how's it going, buddy? I know you're a little under the weather, but did you enjoy the episode?
Yeah, I really did. I went into it. I kind of was scared because I love the first episode so much that I was kind of like, man,
what if they mess it up?
Yeah, what if they screw the rest of the whole thing up?
Right.
And I found myself having a lot of fun with it. I think the first episode is still better because just that frenetic pace of the first episode I really loved. This one slowed it down a lot. But I thought did some really interesting things and felt very episodic almost.
Right.
We were talking about last time, it was sort of as episodic in terms of the Loki time slipping stuff, but this episode just kind of really felt episodic in terms of there's like an overarching narrative like there is in a TV show, but there's also one thing happening in this episode, the one big story happening in this episode, which is them with Brad. So
yeah, exactly. Brian, we invited Uncle Brian as he's known on the Deucecast area, but this is his first appearance on Extra. I know he is watching Loki, obviously, but give the viewer a little background on your MCU status. How are you fully caught up?
Sure, that's a great question. I think there are beats like the Eternals that I have not seen. I'm not all about She-Hulk like Red is. I'm not watching the Marvels, but there are I'd say core like Avengers, that and Spider-Man. Now that he's back in the fold, I'm caught up on all that. So plus I love Loki. I love all the Thor stuff. So yeah, that's where I am.
Now you've mentioned a lot of movies and shows that are about women that you don't care for.
That's my demographic. Anti-women.
Oh, so you can join Ryfin in that because he feels the same way about Catwoman on the Batman.
Hey guys, I loved WandaVision.
Oh yeah, that's a great
WandaVision was great.
Me too.
Yeah.
Exactly. Dr. Earl, coming in hot as you always do.
Yeah, sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Right to the last
minute. Any thoughts about this? High-level thoughts about this episode before we dive deep?
Yeah, sure. Now, this episode felt like Loki True Detective because you had like the two. You had Loki and make sure I get his name right this time. Mobius.
Yes.
I like sort of their like investigatory good cop bad cop thing and their little discussions and tracking Brad and I mean I could have a whole show if they could kind of keep this investigative type. Now I know this is just probably they're going to have like different sort of themes for every show, but
seems that way, maybe.
There seems to be sort of a mystery with this whole scenario of how things are going to unfold, and of course we're learning a lot. I really like this episode a lot. Like just the world building, all the acting was really solid. I think this is some of oh gosh, and I blanked on his Owen Wilson's best work.
He's doing good.
I mean, he's like I just think he's doing a great job with the character and just some of the throwaway lines he's got are really funny. So,
well, the rapport that he and Tom Hiddleston have
solid.
Is good, and even this new guy that plays Brad, he's been around a little while.
I didn't realize like who this was at first, and I had to look him up.
What is it? Raphael Cassell. He's done some stuff. He did Train Spotting with David or not Train Spotting. I'm sorry,
Blind Spotting
with David Diggs.
That's an old.
So it makes me,
But-
and apparently he can sing. So I wonder if he was part of that Hamilton crew or something. Because
I don't know about
the
that.
only reason I know that is because I saw that he did the voice of Jack Skellington at one of those Hollywood Bowl Nightmare Before Christmas live things. So
he was a white guy, so he wasn't in Hamilton.
That's true.
That's fair. That's fair, Rhett. And Rhett, speaking of, I mean, are you going to bring us back to reality here at all?
Yeah, it was a show that I watched
and
remember some of. And look, I think it was very poorly paced, and I think there are a couple of character choices that I don't agree with that I'll get into that I think are missed opportunities. But I think the rapport between the mains is top notch. Hiddleston is a great. Whether I don't like this version of Loki. Right. But Hiddleston elevates it because he's good at what he does. He's not a charisma hole like a Ahsoka, like a Rosario Dawson, or really anyone in that show.
He's not a plank of wood.
He's good despite.
You guys must have watched honest trailers.
That's from
So it was I think it had a couple of issues. It's not trash like a She-Hulk or almost anything Lucasfilm does.
I thought you would have appreciated that we're getting a little more dark Loki, even if it was an
act. Yeah, he went villain.
That was really one of my biggest issues with the show. And I guess if it's okay, Michael, I'll get into that one.
Well,
scene.
no, I mean, yeah,
Michael, you've got to give your.
That's one thing. Well, no, I already did at the top.
Okay,
I mean, I liked, I personally thought the pacing worked for the style of episode that it was, which was more like a procedural cop.
But I think that's where it went off the rails for me. Is I feel like that one scene, kind of that interrogation scene where you get Loki. So first we catch him, and Loki uses some of his trickster magic, right? Which I thought was a great scene. I liked the shadow.
That was cool.
Manifestations there. I thought that was great. But then he abandoned it. It's one of those. It's like when the stormtroopers start shooting at you until you pull your lightsaber out. Now they want to melee you. Well, no, keep shooting. He abandoned his tools in the interrogation where he just starts talking through it, and then he. So Brad kind of goads him, right? He tries to get a rise out of Loki, and you feel like Loki's about to, and he kind of gave a voice to this idea that he was about to really unload on this guy, that he's been looking for an excuse to be the old school, mean, evil Loki, and he did nothing. Nothing came of that. And
but that's because he's changed as a character.
But he doesn't have to skin the guy. But he could have really scared him.
He brought that box down pretty far.
That happened later.
He's talking about the first interrogation.
Thing, I guess that's part of the pacing issue is where we had 2 rounds of this interrogation when they could have shortened that into about a minute and a half instead of 10, 12 minutes, however long we spent in there. If Loki had kind of really risen into that evil Loki mode, he can create illusions. He could have scared the pants off of this guy, got the information, and then kind of gone back to this better Loki and be like, I took care of it. I knew that would work. He never really had to do anything evil, but I felt like that was a missed opportunity. I thought it would have shortened the scene. It would have gotten us moving a little quicker, and that was kind of the pacing issue. I think it's a missed opportunity with Loki because I like I don't like what we did to Loki, where we took the evil Loki right fresh from his defeat in Avengers and let him watch a montage. And now he's the Loki
better now
from the other, like the evolved Loki. And
he's like, go make Bantha babies.
I don't like the accelerated character growth they did to get him to the point that we knew, right? I thought truly taken Hiddleston and Loki, the character, could have gone a darker direction, and I wish they had. They don't have to do that for me, but that's like when I see this kind of scene where he is very passively engaged and not really using his power, using the charisma and the abilities. This trickster god does nothing to really propel that scene forward. Now, ultimately, he came back in and he kind of used other tools, like, right? When he got the information, he used some TVA apparatus to squeeze the guy, right? he didn't do anything on his own. He didn't express any of his own abilities or powers or motivations, and I thought it was disappointing.
I like that because he knew what the device was. The guard specifically knew what that torture device was. It was something they clearly used within the
X5
TVA.
guy did, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I get that he could use illusions. I still don't like your implication. Look, I get it. He showed a video. He didn't fully change on that moment. He was still pretty garbage for a couple episodes.
But we're meant to. I mean, we're meant to accept that, though. I mean, right now they showed us that to explain, and it certainly moved him. He's much nearer to the Thor Ragnarok Loki than the Avengers Loki.
I will say it's clear that yes, Marvel wanted to get back to that Ragnarok Loki as fast as possible, and I accept that because I enjoyed where that character was going at that time.
And I think
I don't know. It's unearned. I mean, it's not.
I think the purpose of that first scene was to also show that Mobius has a side that can unleash. He's always been sort of the nice guy, sort of calm, and then when he unleashed on him, it was like, so then that, I don't know, stimulated that conversation over pie.
Yeah, which was not
very green pie,
not comparable at all with Loki kind of downplaying what he did in New York.
Yeah,
I thought that was funny.
Yeah, he did a little angry, and
we're seeing
funny.
But also I mean, this is a nitpick, but but that was years ago, right? That was many years ago in the timeline. I mean, it's 10 years ago, right? 10 or 11 years ago in the timeline, or more now. It's 15, I guess. But he spoke about it like it was still new to, or no, I'm sorry. When he talked about it, there was this distance in him referring to it. He didn't refer to it like it happened a week ago. But it happened a week ago for him. We're just a few days into.
I don't think it's been a few days. I think he's been there for a while at this point.
Well, I mean, how long was he there for season 1? I mean, it wasn't a long time.
Look, I'm going to wait for the DK book to come out next week.
To fill in the blanks, right?
They actually do have a timeline book coming out, and I'd be interested to see if they address that. But
because I think narratively we're supposed to place it concurrent to.
I think it's supposed to be modern day MCU, right?
Yeah, like where we are now, but we didn't see that time elapse. Like he's 20 now. I know it's the TVA, so you can pop in and out wherever,
Right.
He is.
Right.
But I didn't. But that's moving on the timeline. I think for him, I don't think he's been there that long, and
I think it's been a couple months at least.
Well,
right,
that was
and I was thinking about Mobius,
an event of your entire life, and a defining moment, and he just spoke about it. That was for us. That was a call. That was a shout out to the audience.
Oh yeah.
Hey, remember Avengers, and there was not a connection. Loki didn't have a connection to it, like I feel like he should have, since it just happened to him. That's a nitpick. It's just this. I don't know. I mean, to me, they feel like missed opportunities to really to really explore that character better than we're getting. And I mean, I don't hate the show. I just
Brian, you were about to say something. What was?
Yeah, a couple things. I think we're seeing like the trinity of Loki, where we're seeing at the very beginning he's starting to use his powers, but he's like, I think he's struggling. We're seeing like the two faces of Loki, and that develops totally over the arc of these 45 minutes, right? It's very quick. I realize that, but it's like, he's like, should I use my powers, or hey, I'm sick of this, I'm just going to use my powers to knock this guy over, and he does that, and then he's like, well, I'm not going to torture the guy, but then I torture the guy, but then his interaction with Sylvie later on is just like pure like love, and like they want to solve things and solve this whole issue. And then I think the same thing is true of not Morpheus, Mobius, where he's lived an entire lifetime inside the TVA, but he wants to be in a non-pruned timeline driving a jet ski on a lake somewhere, right? So it's like I'm seeing both sides to both characters at the same time, so that's why they played so well off each other for me.
Yeah, no, their rapport is great. I mean, when they're on the screen together is when this show is at its best. Some of the other choices, though, I just don't. I mean, most of the supporting cast is fine. I mean, obviously, Short Round's always going to be great. I don't love Sylvie, and I'll tell you why. I think there's she doesn't look like Loki. Number one, the female.
Well, she's a variant
in the. I know, but the female version of Loki in the comics is still dark haired, tall. She kind of trickster god still, so uses a lot of the god of mischief, right?
Well, that one's also called Loki, too.
Yeah, correct. No,
so
I know.
He's almost kind of an original.
And I think it's an interesting to me that like the character study of Loki being attracted only to himself. The more you make that character like Loki, then the more interesting and narcissistic he is, and that he's falling in love with himself. And
but I think that he's evolved as a character, though.
That ain't this story. I would have liked to see that story. I think that's a more fun version of a female Loki. And I don't love like she was like she's nothing like Loki, right? She
well. I think the point was, and they bring this up in season 1. She never really got to live the life to be Loki. Mm-hmm. She was arrested as a little child, right? And when she was arrested, she was playing with Valkyrie toys, talking about saving the day and wanting to be a Valkyrie. So it was clear that's why they took her away. In my opinion, was because she was trying to be a hero, and that's not really what Loki's purpose is to be.
Yeah, she's only known war.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
She's only known running away.
Maybe
in war.
She never really settled into that person, but she's just so she's so passive.
Which is why she wants the complete opposite now. She just wants to lead a quiet life and be left alone now. I mean, that's kind of like why her character.
And now this is. I mean, I know this is going to make me. I know what this does. I know what that seemed like here, but she's dowdy. It's like this not an unattractive lady, but there's nothing about like there's no highlighting of like this is a charismatic, mischievous female version of Loki, like the variant, right?
I don't feel like she's that way any earlier on.
I know she's not. That's what I'm saying. I think
she had her one trick moment, which was at the end of the first season, which was pushed.
It is odd. You're right, Rhett, that they didn't hire a higher profile actress to play this role.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know that's it.
I'm like, who? I mean, she's fine. She's a good actress.
I don't think it's her. I think it's the material. I don't think she's.
Well, no,
I think she could play that role fine. But they've got her in this.
So if they darkened her hair, maybe, or.
What do you want, like Shannon Elizabeth or something? Like, what do you mean high profile?
Well, I mean, like, get somebody like Tatiana Maslany or
like there's no real connective tissue that makes her a Loki to me. And like there's
Megan Thee Stallion.
Value of having her as a Loki is if she's nothing like a Loki. And that's all. I feel like
I don't think that they're even. I don't even think that they're acknowledging that she is anything more than a variant at this point.
Well, I know that.
Well, I think that's also kind of what. That's also kind of what made season 1 work in the sense of they brought this Loki to come on and hunt down another Loki, but
we need a Lizzo Loki.
The reason he was having trouble himself with this Loki was because she really wasn't ever a Loki.
Yeah,
right. She hated the name, and yeah.
She was never trying to be a Loki. Yeah.
Well, now she wants to.
I didn't think it was I didn't think a whole lot happened in the episode until right at the end. I mean, a lot of episodes are like that, so that's just the nature of the beast, I think. But yeah, I didn't think it was well paced. I thought the interrogation went a bit long. I think just standing around talking in a McDonald's or on the back of a truck is a little bit dull. It doesn't really keep the keep me interested. And then and then the finale, when everything happens. Look, I didn't buy Brad. Like if he knows that these timelines are imminently going to be pruned, he was.
Why would he want to go back to his?
He was not trying to go back. He was living it up.
He was trying to go back to the sacred timeline, which was not going to be pruned.
Now, was Brad not?
Was that the sacred timeline he was on?
Yeah,
was
the one
Brad
that he
not,
was on? Yeah.
Was Brad not a distraction at that point? I mean, would he not have been? Seemed like he was kind of in on the plan a bit.
Yeah, it wasn't clear to me. Like, he was in the sacred timeline, but he was. Yeah. He shouldn't have been, right?
Because they pinged his device, and he had to have known they would ping his device. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Do you think he was set up as a distraction?
And then even when he led
Docs,
when he led them to Sylvie, it's another one of those cases where nothing happens off camera, right? So they like it's a surprise to everybody but Brad that they get there and there's this plan to prune the timeline. Like he could have said that before they got there. He's like, let me tell you, she's here, but let me tell you why I don't want to go back. They're going to prune that timeline. But he willingly went to that timeline and then told everybody they're going to prune it and act like he's worried about it. And it doesn't.
Well, there's apple pie.
And the way it's done that is because they had a scene break. He was being interrogated. They have a scene break. They get him ready.
I thought Mobius took one.
And there's no conversation that happens off camera ever in any of these shows. But you don't get any information.
Brad wants both Lokis. He wants Loki and Sylvie there. I promise you.
Right.
That was his intention. And he's trying to get Mobius the whole time let's go back to the TVA. Let's go back.
Why does he care that the two of them are there? He's
to kill them.
To kill them. To get rid of them.
To prune them.
But So the interrogation didn't work on him. He intended all along to tell them where Sylvie was.
He was about to get.
I'm saying at that point in the episode, he was okay with that result.
Okay, but for your plan for that idea,
he didn't want to die. He didn't want to get squished in the brick. So
he would have.
Mobius forced him to go.
He acquiesced and told him
to tell them. Then
no.
Well, that's what. Then he wouldn't have. Look, if he wanted them both there to kill him, then yeah, he did.
I could probably make a better case if I'd seen the episode since like last Thursday.
No. But so Brett, he told them because he was going to get squished in the cube. He didn't want to tell them.
But Garrison's theory is that he wanted both of them there together. So
once he knew that could happen, once he knew he had to tell them,
he already knew the timeline could be pruned because he was
no. But once he had to tell them where Sylvie was.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't know if I buy that either. Right? I think he was trying to. What he said is he was looking for Sylvie. And all of a sudden he realized, hey, I'm just going to sneak away to my old timeline.
He just wants to be on the sacred timeline and
so he wanted to live as Brad, whatever his name is.
I don't think he wanted to be there at all.
Bizarro,
I don't think he cared whether Sylvie was there. He didn't care whether Loki was there. He just didn't want to be there because it was getting pruned. But he didn't tell anybody it was going to get pruned until he already got there, until he took him there. And
I thought Mobius forced him to go there, though, didn't he?
And the reason he didn't tell anybody that is because the camera wasn't on them. Right? They had all this time between the interrogation and the time they got there.
Show don't tell.
Conversation.
Show don't tell.
They never do that.
Is he hesitant to go? I don't remember. It's been a while.
He didn't want to go. I mean,
I thought Mobius said, "You're going to go with us, because we're going to make sure."
Along.
I mean, the whole time he was like, "I got to get out of here. I got to get out of here."
Yeah, and he's like, and then all of a sudden, Mobius is like, "Okay, wait a minute. Unless this is
it's just clunky. It's clunky.
It was interesting how
it's not a shitty show because they can't get their pieces all put together just right, but it's clunky.
It's enjoyable clunk. Enjoyable clunk.
I don't hate it, but it's clunky.
At least the writing is. At least the dialogue is snappy.
The dialogue's snappy. I like the dialogue.
Yeah, but I don't. I
the writing's never good enough for Rhett, though. It's never good enough.
No.
It's not like Joss Whedon. Like,
listen, you can go into you look at screenplays from older movies. I'm not going to go off on a. But there's subtext and like themes throughout, and it's. They don't always just say the words, right? You really have to do even something recent like Power of the Dog.
Oh God,
that screenplay is not awful. Most of it,
right? That's true.
Okay?
Yeah, it's just a freaking awfully paced film.
Yeah, but it's and look, there's not a whole lot of subtle about that main character, right? I mean, like we kind of get it right away. Like I know what
Andrew. No, but what's the source, man?
Wait, Rhett, do you think that guy was gay?
Yeah, right. Yeah, his uncle molest him. What? I figured that out pretty early. But some of the interactions between him and Kirsten Dunst's character, like the way that they would do the music, right? She would play the piano poorly, and then he wouldn't say, "I'm going to screw you over. I'm going to make you miserable." He would just go play it perfectly, right? And then that caused her to drink and all these other things. They didn't just feed
that guy.
And there's not a subtext. That's what I'm saying. I think writing generally is weaker in these kinds of scenarios. In some of these old movies, these like a High Noon, some Gary Cooper stuff. Those screenplays, Citizen Kane, that screenplay is so tight and
it's not a series.
Dude, but you're not gonna get that on a TV show.
So, and it may be that just this genre is crap, that nobody can write worth a damn in this genre. Because if you look back at 50s, 60s sci-fi, most of it was campy trash, right? Most of it, there are the things that that elevated to the top, but most of it was junk. And maybe this genre is just shitty. And that everybody's going to keep.
What genre are you talking about?
Have you?
Because we have such low expectations. We accept anything fantasy, anything that just show me effects and something cool and comic-y. And that's all we ever want. But there are other genres where there's actually good writing, and I don't know why we can't have that in the things that we watch and talk about.
Right, I do have to I actually have to ask, I know you like The Expanse. We just get into sci-fi. Have you ever watched something like Doctor Who?
I have some, yeah.
Okay.
I watched a lot of them when I was little.
There's a ton of nonsense in that show.
Yeah.
Really, there's probably more nonsense than I've gotten in Loki so far, honestly. But
I don't love Doctor Who.
Okay.
I think there are moments that bubble up to being.
So I think that you can't blanket the genre, though. You can't blanket the genre because Picard season 3 had some good writing. I mean, so you can't.
No, it was fun, but it's not well written. I mean, it was.
No, I think it was well written. The story.
There's so many plot holes in that thing that makes you want to throw up. I mean, all the stuff.
We're in search of a good plot.
Entirety of Starfleet being in one spot. I mean, that's just crap to make your plot move. But I mean, like that's really nonsensical stuff. But you take. But The Expanse. Let's use The Expanse as an example.
All right. Way to go, Garrison.
No, The Expanse is an adaptation.
Yes.
It came from books. Authors
written by two guys
who write books and get them published. They're usually pretty good. Like their books are still a pretty consistent.
It gives a skeleton.
This is well written and plotted. Mm-hmm. So that adaptation, it lent credibility to that show. That show was easier to make because they already had a pretty good template. These guys are writing out of their own heads and talent, and it's not as good as other genres and other writers that we see. And that's what I just wish it was better.
I think this is some of the best trash. I think this is some of the best writing to come out of the MCU, maybe minus Guardians 3. Well, but it's not all sci-fi anyway.
I think it's really good writing.
I don't mean sci-fi, but just genre. You know, this nerdy genre, sci-fi, fantasy, comic.
I just can't wait for the Daily Wire's The Pendragon cycle. Then maybe finally we will have some quality writing, and it'll just be perfection.
Well, we need Rhett to go talk to all the writers.
That 1,000 people see.
Rhett, you could have a sign say, "Always be consistent, always be logical."
I mean, I'm watching The Wheel of Time now, and it's not great. You know, the books are awesome, and the show.
Earl loves The Wheel of Time.
I mean, I like it.
Not the first season.
It just seems cheesy to me, but the books are amazing. So,
well, are you in the first season or the second season?
Season 2. I haven't finished season 2 yet.
Does it stay close to the book? I haven't read those. Does it stay close to the books?
No.
Or the parts that are cheesy and crap, is that where they swayed? They moved away from the.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
These assholes can't write.
The worst part The worst part about Wheel of Time is they consulted Brandon Sanderson, who helped finish the series, and then didn't take any of his ideas apparently, and then didn't consult with him.
We've heard that before, haven't we?
I've read some Sanderson stuff. He's good.
He's a good guy.
Right.
If only
I like the Wheel of Time.
If only Disney would have taken the Lucas
but I didn't read the books.
If only they had adapted the Lucas script.
With the journal into the wills and the floating.
I wouldn't put Lucas on the pedestal. But listen, Earl, who likes Wheel of Time, liked Ahsoka, so he can't be trusted.
No,
Hey, by the way, good time to announce the Deucecast book club launching.
Right. I don't.
Yeah,
read.
what book are we going to start with?
Clearly, I don't read. I mean, I don't have time for any of that. That's not for reading. When we have such visual majesty as Loki season 2.
Oh my! The glory and the majesty. Just
well,
okay. Let's talk about Obi and Eugene.
I want to dig deep here with Rhett. I hate that I'm saying that.
Let that go. Let that
go. But I want to find a show like within the last 5 years. Like what about House of the Dragon or House of Dragon or whatever? What did you think of that? I thought that was well written personally, but
yeah, and I haven't read that. That's an adaptation from a book, right?
Fire and Blood.
I don't know how closely. Like he did some
parts
some
of
prehistory books. Yeah.
Well, it's like the history, right?
Game of Thrones was great while they were on the books. When they ran out of books, that thing went off a cliff. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I just I've been looking at these old movies. I mean, Misfits with Marilyn Monroe and Clark Gable.
Right.
That's a movie about nothing. Those people don't do anything, but they grow as characters, and their interactions are sharp, and kind of the growth and some of the scenarios they're put in that they work out in a particular way. Like it was really well written, real well done stuff, and I wish I had more of that.
Well, okay, so like here's the deal. I mean, I think that you can still find quality writing in like theatrical movies and stuff like that. I mean, the timelines that they put these writers under for these Disney streaming shows is ridiculous. I mean,
I think that kind of brings my point home.
Yeah,
there is great writing out there, but it's not mainstream. It's not mainstream.
It's not.
There's some of these independent movies. Anything that they throw a lot of money at.
Oppenheimer was well written, I would say, but I mean,
yeah, well, it was. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Well, first you're talking about Chris.
But that's an out. I mean, you can always come up. You can always find an exception. But I'm talking about.
Oh no! I think there's more on the film side of things, or on the theatrical movies.
There's a lot of really well done, well directed, beautiful things, character work happening out in movies all over the place, but they're not the I'm talking about the genre that we cover
in this genre.
I think
things that we talk about, why can't they be better?
I think Eric Martin's doing a really good job with the show.
You're
asking why can't it be better? I
think it's gonna, when the whole thing finally comes around, I think it's gonna have some real time loops that are gonna be pretty impressive. I mean,
does it feel like it's going to have a real impact on the MCU at all, or will this ultimately be inconsequential?
Well, that's a great question. I don't know.
I think they're in a pickle right now because of the whole Jonathan Majors thing. So, I mean, I don't know what they're going to do.
They're not shying away from Majors. The first shot of the
No. I'm just saying for the future. They don't know if they're going to be able to continue to use this guy.
Even if they're not able to use him, you just recast the character and move on. I mean, that's assuming everything goes to plan.
Terrence Howard to do it.
Hey, my big takeaway on Friday, I went to McDonald's to try to get some Loki nuggets, and they were out of the sauce.
Loki nuggets?
Yeah, you can get there's like a McDonald's tie-in.
Are they shaped like Loki?
Oh, I'm sure there's a product place.
There's the sauce. There's the sauce.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah. So not actual pieces of Loki, Michael. So,
well, but Brian, you have to take into account that there's the fast food like people that go for the special, like whatever they can get. I mean, so
also
it did make me
trying to get some. They were out.
Yeah. Also, this is being run by Rick and Morty people who had that whole Szechuan sauce thing.
The whole Szechuan sauce thing. Yeah, I mean,
yep.
They're very obsessed with McDonald's for some reason. I don't know why.
Man,
I like the production design. I don't like the McDonald's. I mean, I know it's 1980s McDonald's, right?
Sure.
That's such a.
They're obsessed with McDonald's. That's what the Rick and Morty guys are.
I don't love the color palette, and I think it was the same issue I had with really Ahsoka, where there's no real color palette in any of these things anymore. So, Secret Invasion was the same color throughout.
I'll agree with you that what? Oh yeah, okay.
Kingo was in the episode.
That was awesome.
The great Kingo.
this
It was Bollywood.
Speaking of the
I think
Eternals,
this has a much better color palette than Secret Invasion and Ahsoka. I'd say.
No, it's better.
I thought
It is
so
better.
too.
I
I
look,
love the design on most of this.
Kate
No, I
Herron's
do.
color palette from the first season was more colorful. Clearly, the indie guys they brought on, Benson and Moorhead, are a bit more desaturated with the look that they're going for, and they're also doing like a bit of fake grain in there too.
well, that's because they
Kinda
like the whole realism. They're very like they want to be grounded. With
I just think that's their
sci-fi.
style, and you know, I'm going with it right now. But I agree, it's definitely less colorful than the first season.
Yeah, and I generally like the production design. It's just I wish the color palette had a little more to it. I mean, I think in a world where you can just do anything, right? I mean, you can just really you put anything you can imagine on the screen, like, but you don't want to overdo it like Quantumania, right? I mean, you got to find a balance.
There's a line, there's a line you don't want to cross.
I could stand a little more color and variety, and then moving to a 1982 McDonald's doesn't change the palette very much. I mean, the
it's a lot of orange and reds,
but the colors
I
are
feel like
the
it's a lot of green and yellow, honestly.
So,
brown.
would any of you consider yourselves like Marvel experts that could explain what the implication of all of these timelines being pruned is, like for the story in the future?
So, to be honest, that was the one part I did not
like. Billions of people, quote unquote, dying.
Here's what I don't like about this season so far. Last season made sense. There's variant pruning. There's timelines that are broken off from the main one. Go prune them so you can keep the sacred timeline. Well,
now they're worried about
sort of.
Why wouldn't you want to prune all these?
Yeah, this kind of like
they went
retro countercultural type thing where
she kills he who remains and the timelines go all over the place and but then we were like, oh well, if we fix the loom, that's just putting strain on the loom, and we'll fix the loom and make sure that's okay. It's like, I
just didn't care. Like they tried to make it so weavy, and I was
billions of people are dying.
I was like, y'all did this without any problem last season.
Yeah,
Earl, I know, I agree. I think you've gotten to that issue in sci-fi fantasy where you take down the big bad guy and then you got to move forward. And what do the people do?
Reverse. Yeah.
And so they're immediately making decisions to just do everything the opposite. But that's not going to work clearly because there are a lot of issues with that. They've got to slowly move towards the opposite if they're going to get there. But yeah, that whole thing at the end where it was just like all these timelines got pruned and the billions of lives. Yeah, that didn't really hit me as hard as it should have.
They're all standing there, blank-faced,
like in shock.
Yeah, no, they're in shock.
We're supposed to believe they're in shock and sad, and then the lady, I don't remember her number,
B15.
Yeah, she's. I guess she was acting upset. I don't know.
She was. We were supposed to get that out of that situation.
Her range is limited.
Hey, I just watched her in a horror film that was really good. Actually, she's a good actress.
Then it's on the director, but. I thought their reactions were probably understated to that if it's really that big a deal. But a week ago it wasn't that big a deal. So
and I wonder what. So like my whole theory with the first season was that the sacred timeline was not one timeline. It was several. It was just timelines that didn't result in other King the Conquerors. Basically, that was my theory because they would all you did see other different weaves kind of in the first season. They would just kind of run on the same path basically. So you could have slight differences, but they can't be enough to branch off basically.
But there were also millions of Kangs, or however many in the arena at the end of Quantumania.
Well, but that's after Loki.
Well, but where'd they come from? I mean that's been a week. So did they? Where did those timelines always exist and propel?
No, I would say the timelines.
Why had they not been pruned?
I would say timelines don't exist linearly, and once things started to branch off, you started to have the Kangs pop up, and then those guys had lived hundreds of years or whatever. I don't.
Without being pruned, though, in an environment where they were constantly pruning everything, and He Who Remains would have been pruning them. I don't know why they existed through that. They should.
I don't think they did.
The timelines branch now, then they should be born.
I don't.
And, there's no. Again, it's like a bootstrap paradox. Well, where did they start?
I don't think it's linear. I think they're in the future of these branched timelines that are happening because of Loki season 1.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So who was telling Katie Dickey's character, General Dox, who was telling her to go send all those people to do the pruning? Like, where did that
she
come
decided
from?
she rebelled against the lady with the weird disease.
Yeah, she's working, I think, with Renslayer and Miss.
Well, we don't
Miss Minutes.
Miss Minutes.
Yeah, we don't know that. We just know in episode 1 she said the timekeepers are fake, but their warnings were real to X5.
Yeah,
right.
So she's doing her job.
They start throwing.
Job, right?
She's trying to prune. Yeah.
Right. So she sends the soldiers out there to they're raiding the armory, and they send people out there and they just start killing people.
Right.
And
they just start pruning timelines.
Pruning. Right.
Which effectively ends the lives of billions of people.
But are the but to X5's part, is any of it real though? That's what some of that conversation was interesting to me.
I would say it's real in the sense that it ends the lives, it ends the choices that those people could freely make, because the branch timelines are really just different choices that are being made across the multiverse.
Okay.
Okay.
That's interesting.
I just don't like when the solution to defeat the bad guy from last season.
Sure, they've flipped it. Yeah, you're right.
When you take that, which is like, okay, this is how we beat the bad guy, and all of a sudden it's like, oh no, that's the bad thing to do.
Psych.
Right. Well, it's almost as if once He Who Remains, or whatever his name is, was killed, all those timelines occur, all those branches occur, and so they're dealing with them, and they don't want to prune them now because they're worried about
living people,
all the lives now.
Guys, I think we're missing the big picture here. Rhett just said, "I like,"
take
and
me
then
home.
didn't finish the sentence. So
take me home, Garrison.
I think we should hear what he likes.
I don't remember now. It was. I want to react to something that you said. You talked about the choices.
Yeah,
the choices. Yeah,
and like how that creates timelines, but it's not exactly that. Like that's. I am familiar with that version of a multiverse where, you make a choice. I read a sci-fi short one time that it had to do with faster than light travel. So in the moment that this spaceship would jump faster than light, you would see like the characters would see kind of before them all the random choices that they could have made and what those outcomes were, just briefly, like in an instant. But the way the multiverse works here, it's not just choices. Like they're different people. Loki's an alligator. Loki is a woman.
Right.
It's just.
But I think
they're not only choices. There's
I think
something else at work, and they don't explain it. That's okay.
See, I think those could be tied back to choices that were made in the past.
I mean, I considered that too, but it's so nebulous with the way it works. Like you need to. And I know this is a fantasy world with gods and monsters, but you still need to establish some rules for your world. And because we don't know how any of that works, and they've not really explained it, it makes it. I mean, you kind of it keeps you on the precipice about it. Like, well, I don't know if this makes sense or not. It makes it all feel a little bit weird because you never know really how it works.
I do wish. So Marvel had a retreat last summer where they went and said, this is the established rules of the multiverse. And they told all the creatives this. I wish they would come out and say, this is what those rules were. But maybe they don't even have to get into things that would be spoilers necessarily. Just say, hey, these are basic rules that we have for the multiverse. And, this is what we're doing.
Right. Yeah. No, and I don't feel like they're following any rules, right?
Yeah.
And that's.
I disagree. I think Waldron and his team have an idea here. They know what's going on for the future of their.
I think the Loki crew
realm.
actually does have an idea of their own rules. I just don't know that the rest of the Marvel universe had the same rules.
And that could be.
I don't think they know the rules for the multiverse. I mean, I think I think it's very much whatever the plot demands it to be, and that's a way to write, and it's not the word. I mean, it's not in and of itself the wrong way, but it's a choice that they made, where I find much more comfort, and you kind of follow things better when you establish some rules and stay with it. I think it makes for better writing when you can't take an easy Deus Ex Machina way out because you just write whatever you want.
Let's also say that I'm fairly confident that the multiple Lokis thing, where he's played by Richard E. Grant and the black guy and the little kid and the alligator, was also another way for them to introduce to the audience the fact that all the different versions of these Marvel characters you've known in the past also exist within the multiverse,
and they look different.
And then go to No Way Home at that point and say, "Oh, this is a thing."
You're right. Yeah, no, I think they. I don't know whether that's a chicken or egg too, right? Like I don't know.
Yeah.
Did Loki know
that how
did they do that because of that, or did they use that in those futures? I don't know. I don't know where the development happened.
Is that how they're going to reconcile the X-Men being different people? And
I mean, I don't know how long
they could
do that, but I don't feel like they need to.
It'd be really weird.
Obviously, they're going to have Hugh Jackman as Wolverine in Deadpool, but I feel like that's going to be outside of the sacred timeline. I feel like it's going to be a multiverse thing outside of the sacred.
It'd be
timeline.
very easy.
But I think you can put it. It's easy at that point to put them all in, and that way you don't have to worry about. Well, why did Professor X not help against Thanos? Right? Where was he?
Yeah.
You can't. And we don't have to start the origin. We don't have to start with an origin story. If you cram them all, you smack them all together and be like, we just merged some timelines. Here they are.
And Eternals. Well, first off, you can do that after Secret Wars. If you're really doing it, if you're playing things right and everything was going well up to Secret Wars, you could do that in Secret Wars and then have kind of the Earth be kind of a combined perfect version of Marvel.
Is that the Battle World story and all that?
Well, Battle World is the worlds they go to fight.
I'm just trying to pinpoint that story. I'm not a.
So maybe 5 years from now, Loki will make sense 5 years from now. Maybe.
I think they'll bring it home. I think there's a reason.
Any of it's going to make sense, and I know.
Look,
and here's why. Listen, if you try to take the Transformers movies, you cannot make sense of that continuity because it just gets farther and farther away.
They try to.
Highlander. Man, you're
right.
If there was ever a thing that should have been only one, it was Highlander, and just got convoluted nonsense. So I think
wait, are we talking about X-Men or TVA?
Earlier, where you defeat the villain, and now you've got to keep the story going. Our demand for sequels, and we want more of this story, forces bad writing. Because you have an idea and you finish it, but we demand more. That nobody will ever just finish a damn story.
Well, that's also
more.
It's a series arc. It's a series arc.
That's also the comics.
Overall.
That's the comics medium. That's the source material.
That's the source.
That you never finish the story.
But it's not just comics. I mean, almost everything that is successful, a sequel is demanded.
Well, today, yes,
and that's all. Made because you can't take a risk on a new.
I mean, that's how we got Crank High Voltage. I mean, a sequel was demanded.
Well, but then those guys went on to direct the god awful Ghost Rider: Spirit of Vengeance, which.
Yes.
So
hey, look, that had Nick Cage peeing fire. I was okay.
Yes, and it's awful.
So it's not always. Look, I rag on the writers, but they're put in a pretty bad spot where
they are. Yeah,
we demand that you come up with something. I mean, writing is art. And you can't just make someone go slap something on a page or a canvas or sculpt something beautiful just on demand. There has to be inspiration there and all these other things. And we're demanding that they crank out product. So maybe they're just doing. Maybe that's okay. I mean, maybe they're cranking out their product.
I mean, and you were having nostalgia earlier, but I mean, Superman 4 did happen for the very same reason. I mean, they demanded more. So Quest for
you can also blame.
I mean,
that? Like that, I don't think the people. I don't think people demanded, or like the viewers demanded that. I think
people wanted to see Christopher Reeve as Superman.
You can blame Christopher Reeve partially for that because those were his demands for that.
He wanted to have it be a message.
I just don't. I think that we're having this nostalgia of the past. I mean, there was still a lot of that. I mean, it mostly started in the late 70s, early 80s.
I'm talking about. I mean, but that's also
you were talking about.
I just said genre. This genre is campy crap. Well, that was campy crap.
Right. I'll give you a good example of that, in my opinion. I don't think personally, I don't think Loki's there, but that's your opinion and that's my opinion.
Sure.
But I think in the case of something like Doctor Who we talked about earlier, you could definitely see Stephen Moffat towards the end of his run, just kind of running out of steam.
Oh, sure.
It was kind kind of rough
Is he
for
the
me.
writer, or who's
Some
Stephen
characters-
Moffat?
He was
He was a
showrunner
showrunner.
writer, yeah.
Well, and also you don't want to. I mean, in theory, you wouldn't want to repeat yourself either, right? I mean, there's how many decades with Doctor Who do you have? So,
Right.
so you're already restricted. So you're like, we want more, but you can't do any of this. And that's the way the MCU is.
Which is how you come up.
In. We've got hundreds of hours of content. We need you to do more, but listen, all this other stuff you've got to do. First of all, you can't do it again, and this all has to relate to that somehow. It has to be.
Don't worry, Kevin Feige said that he feels like they haven't even gotten close to how much more content.
But it's hard to demand. You can't just demand someone crank that kind of thing out and it fire on all cylinders.
That's how it works, though. I mean, that's
so. Think about Russell T Davies.
That's how it works, but it's wrong.
Yeah, Russell T.
I
Davies.
mean,
Russell T.
wrong.
Davies.
That's fine. If that's your model, that's fine. But I notice. I mean, one of the consequences of that is the writing is not always going to be very good because, and maybe it's not as hard as I pound the writers for it. Maybe it's not all their fault. It's just the system that requires that.
Yeah,
they do
I mean,
this
is how it is. This is how it is.
Yep.
I mean, it is.
Yeah.
What are you going to say about Russell T. Davies?
Russell T. Davies. Sherlock was 4 episodes.
Oh man,
about
I
hour.
loved that show.
Just pristine writing, very tight.
Yeah.
Then season 4.
Yeah.
Right. So we'll forgive him for that. But most of my good British drama series on ITV or BBC that make its way to PBS or BBC America are like 3 episodes, 4 episodes max, and then you wait 2 years, then they do another 3 episodes, and that's how a series works in the UK. We just want this constant drip of mediocrity. And it's
no, I don't think we want mediocrity, but I mean, we certainly like our IPs. I mean, we want to continue our stories with the characters we like, and we hope it's not mediocre.
But it does often result in mediocrity.
It often results in mediocrity.
Yeah.
And perhaps maybe some meritocracy should come into play here, and they should just get rid of these bad writers and use better writers.
What are y'all talking about? I just want to watch. I want to talk about Loki. Okay, let's go back to where meritocracies. We're talking about.
Let's get into why season 4 of Sherlock was not great.
Art should be a meritocracy. You shouldn't accept crap.
I agree.
But they had I'm
just being silly.
Yeah, I mean, there was almost like mind control and stuff in Sherlock or something, right? Like it got way off the rails.
Season, I think,
Well, the thing about that show, every episode was almost like a mini movie too.
Yeah.
So this you have to look at this whole. We're taking one chunk out of a whole. What is this going to be? 6 episodes.
6 episodes,
and just filleting it.
We've seen a third of it. I mean,
let's be clear, Earl. Only one man here is filleting.
Well, that's true.
Yeah,
I just don't. I'm not consternation.
Well, I don't mind that you guys like it. I mean, it frustrates me a little bit because you act like I'm I'm an outlier because I noticed that things aren't great, and you guys just
look, Andrew. We're about big ideas here, Andrew. We're not limited to what the title.
You can't hold us down,
is.
man.
We're big ideas.
Don't prune us.
Yeah, I think the fact that Loki warrants a discussion that includes things of movies like. Where you can talk about it in the same breath as a bridge on the River Kwai, which
we can't though.
You can compare the two things. You can look at how screenwriting and character development works from history and see where maybe a thread was dropped here that in the past.
I'm not looking for a David Lean movie when I'm watching Loki though. I mean,
you guys you're not looking for anything. That's the
you're trying to compare some of the greatest movies of all time to a TV show on Disney.
It's not only that, but the process is similar.
Brian,
no. I would disagree completely.
Brian,
the process is no longer similar to what it was.
And you guys are saying that's good. That's even better.
I never said it was
you are
better.
It's a tacit approval of the process when you eat up things like Ahsoka and Loki.
What am I going to watch?
Whoa, hey, Loki's good.
I like Loki.
I do think Loki is better than Ahsoka. I mean, there are some real flaws.
Look, and I'll give this to Loki. If you look at YouTube, and here's the difference: Loki is better than Ahsoka. Hate videos get clicks, right? There ain't that many hate videos on Loki.
No,
because it ain't that bad.
Well, also Marvel's very different than Star Wars in that way.
There's plenty of hate videos on Secret Invasion. Okay,
well, that's easy to do. Yeah,
people can.
That's necessary.
So what I'm saying is, it's not. People are not just arbitrarily hating these things.
That's
if
true.
there's like Ahsoka was hateable in many ways. Loki's not. There's not a whole lot to really hate about Loki. It's pretty good. And that may be relative, but it's still pretty good, and it has not dragged
compared to
So what I'm
Loki
saying
has the advantage of being able to be compared to Secret Invasion.
For the sake of hate, it's not true, because there's not this hate for Loki, and if it was arbitrary, there would be. So don't get carried away that this is just some epidemic of hate, because that's not how anybody's approaching Loki at all.
I wish I was.
I never said.
I wish I was not sick, because I'm having a tough time right now. But yeah.
So at the end, we still don't know where Renslayer is or where Miss Minutes is.
Correct.
I'm not trying
but we do have the revelation that Miss Minutes is doing something nefarious.
We know that
she's affecting she's running the time, whatever, the loom or something, or
she's too pro-Israel, according to Twitter.
She's hanging out with Tara Strong.
Yeah, well,
okay. We know that she's at the World's Fair, based on the trailers.
We know she's going to be in the.
When do we get to the World's Fair? I think probably next episode.
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah, they need to introduce Miss Minutes pretty quick. Yeah,
and Rhett, to be fair, I mean, when this episode started, I was like, did I miss something? Like all of a sudden we just jumped into this thing.
Well,
I didn't even remember X5 from like the episode before.
Same.
See,
I totally agree.
It took me a second to recognize him, because his hair's growing out from when it wasn't.
I honestly thought it was Timothy Oliphant.
See, I kind of liked them jumping right into this episode and kind of going.
Yeah, it felt media res. They just threw us right in.
There's been a little bit of a time gap here, and if you watch between Loki episode 1 and episode 2 of the first season, even then there's a bit of a time gap, because he's clearly gone through orientation of how to be a TVA agent. He's sitting at the desk, talked about watching the videos. Miss Minutes is quizzing him on all this stuff. So there's kind of actually a similarity there between the two seasons. I guess it's the way the writers like to work.
Oh, I didn't hate it. I just didn't realize what we were doing. And then,
I had to Google. I was like, "Who was X5?" I had to. Yeah.
I felt like something cut. Yeah, like there was something missing. Something was cut out that probably would have.
See, but it didn't all happen on screen, right?
Well, I know. Well, yeah, but that's maybe some of that stuff does happen, and they just cut it out. But
we heard the backstory.
Just the editor, I don't know.
And again, it was that True Detective thing where we're going to discover the story as we go. Like, what is X5 doing? What is Doc's doing? Where is Sylvie? Okay, here she is. There's pruning. And I think we're just going to jump. I think the next episode is going to be the same way. We're just going to pop up on I'm assuming the next episode is the World's Fair.
That's what I'm assuming too. Yeah, I don't know anything.
Okay, and I will say the brilliance of this the series is that they can go anywhere and do anything, and it's very open-ended. It's like it's the TARDIS.
Well, now a lot of the timeline's gone now, though. I mean, there's not as many places to go.
New timelines are going to branch up all the time.
They can go to 1970s Britain. They can go to 1980s McDonald's. They can go to a World's Fair. They can go to the moon. They can go anywhere.
They don't have that kind of imagination. We're not going to do any of that.
There's a whole galaxy. It's not just like
we are
like Doctor Who in a sense.
Yeah.
In fact, it could be like what was that show with those guys jumping all over time?
Quantum Leap or
Quantum
Sliders?
Leap. Yeah, no, it's going to be like Quantum Leap. We'll just have 10 seasons of Loki and Mobius just
look. This might be a hot take, but I liked Sliders better than Quantum Leap. That's just I
want to see Quantum Leap.
I never saw Sliders.
Sliders were more fun.
Sliders was just silly fun. Yeah, I mean,
so it's the TARDIS. It's a brilliant plot device to move us to and put characters in different situations, and that's probably the best thing about the show.
Yeah, but they're not doing that.
They're kind of.
No, they did in this episode though, because they had Loki at the very. They had Loki in the 70s. He was acting very much like James Bond. He had the little cravat, and the look that they gave.
Yeah, he didn't do. That's just an outfit they put him in. He didn't do anything that was relevant to the time to that time. Like put him in, have them react.
Well, they were chasing.
That's what Brian's
fugitive.
talking about. I think it's not just they put him there and he walked through it. No, I mean you make him a part of that. That's.
Well, I mean, they had a thing they needed to be doing.
Make this show more like Quantum Leap, and I think it's better.
Okay. The Inner Light, when Picard lives an entire lifetime, right? In Star Trek, that's the kind of stuff they could do.
Yeah. I don't think they're bound to whatever On High is demanding that they
are bound to that, and they're also bound to 6 episodes. They have to tell a quick story here. I mean, they can't have like
I think
13 episodes. They can't have 22 episodes. I mean,
I think they'll stop being bound to 6 episodes soon, based on the way all those reports were going. But for now,
well, I mean, we already know that Daredevil is going to be like
10 to 13 kind of.
No, Daredevil's going to be 20 something.
18.
Oh, that's a little long.
It was. I don't know what Daredevil's
going to do. They could change all that, but I mean,
now what would you think of terms like what if Loki was just like wibbly wobbly timey wimey? What if they just started throwing that in there for you, Rhett? Would that
I don't like Doctor Who. I mean, I never really liked it. I think it has moments. I think that Doomsday arc, anything from Billy Piper running, I enjoyed.
Okay. That's our cue. When Red starts going down that road.
Well, I mean, that was the best part of the Doctor Who was her running.
I mean, Karen Gillan was my favorite.
Amy Pond.
There's not as much going on when she runs. I think she's a better character.
I don't know.
OB, let's talk about OB for
watch
a minute.
Jumanji, man. There's some things going on.
No, I get you. I hear you. Okay. That's fair.
Okay. Oh man. Okay, so, I think we're good here. And unless you had something else, Earl, you were going to say.
No, I liked some of the interaction. I thought Kehi Kwan was great again.
Oh yeah, Obi was good. He didn't have as much to do in this episode except to run around and say we're all going to die. I mean, that's kind of what his.
Well, I liked his interaction with what's the guy's name? Clarence or
I know who you mean.
He's so inconsequential that I can't remember his character's name.
Yeah, that was a good. Yeah,
do y'all even Loki, bro?
Yeah,
I don't care about that character, so no. I mean, he was like, "Can you sign my book?" I mean,
he met his hero. He met his hero.
Which character? That was Casey, right?
You're talking about Casey. I think it's carried by Owen Wilson and Hiddleston being charismatic and great together.
Well, I thought Brad was good too. I thought he had some charisma.
No, he was good. Kind of a character actor who just absolutely landed right in a sweet spot. I thought he was good too.
Yeah.
I think most of the performances are really good, and I think that carries the show a little bit for me. Is that I like seeing the two of them on screen together,
and that's kind of like that's why I was a bit forgiving about doing 2 different interrogation scenes, because to me that just gave them more to do. We got to see more of just their acting prowess. I mean, you got to see Hiddleston do some different things.
Yeah,
you got to see Owen Wilson.
Yeah, but you didn't have to have 2 of the same scene to do that. You could have had him acting in a different scene, in a different,
there's a purpose to all of it.
I was okay with the whole thing. I mean,
that's purpose and all of it.
Like it's easier to swallow that kind of stuff because
it's a swallow.
Do you think anything will become?
That's just a phrase. Like, I'm not saying that this is a garbage show, but you can overlook a little bit. Like, even if it's not a 10, it's still a 7 or 8 because they're good in it. So you watch it and you enjoy it.
I mean, and that's kind of like, and there's been certainly in this particular genre, there's been a lot of that. If you're just in the sci-fi genre, like even when Lost was not great, it was still enjoyable to watch because you had been.
Yeah, this may not be the best episode of the series or whatever.
And those and look, they told a complete story in each episode too. Like they it felt serialized, and I mean it was very serialized, and there were a lot of mysteries. A lot of through line mysteries, but each story, but the way that show was constructed, when you had the flashbacks, each episode was a character study, right? So you had a complete story in each episode of Lost, and what we're getting today is we're not getting complete stories. Even in every now and then you do. Look, the freaking episode with Lizzo and Jack Black was a complete story. I mean, that was a beginning, middle, and end, a 3-act story. But you don't get that out of all of these shows.
Do you think there's importance to the book, the Orange Book, and the loom? Like what if he doesn't repair the loom for real, or is the show solved by some mystery found in the book?
Yeah, I think the loom is Chekhov's gun. I think it. Surely to God, there's some payoff with the loom, or they just wasted our time. I mean, so I hope that it's a Chekhov's gun situation, or else you're really going to hear from me about how crappy these writers are. I mean, you've got to pay that off somehow. That's how writing works. So yeah, I hope so. It reminds me of otherwise. You know what it is. Here's a good analogy. If they don't pay that off, it's Kitster. Remember Kitster from the Phantom Menace? He's a character that means nothing. There's no payoff to that character. He never does anything. He doesn't come back. He had no importance. If the loom doesn't pay off, it's Kitster.
What is happening? I cannot fix this thing. Dang it.
What's up with Garrison's?
I don't know. I can't fix it. It's like jacked up now.
So Kitster, you're talking about the friend of Annie who was helping them with build the Do you want to see him back?
No, I'm just saying that character, like that's what Chekhov's gun is, right? When you introduce something like that, doesn't have to be a gun. It's this is a little bit of a broad explanation.
Schrodinger's cat? Is that?
But no. It needs to have a purpose and a payoff. And Kitster didn't. So if the loom doesn't, then I'm just saying the loom is this show's Kitster. If they don't,
I think also the book too, like the Orange Book, there's going to be some sort of
I've broken this thing, so we're going to have to end the show. I don't know what I've done to it. I've broken it. It's all messed up. So we're going to have to end the show because I can't get Brian and Garrison back on here.
Wait, I'm not in.
What now?
Am I here?
It's
Garrison's all jacked up.
It's on my end. I can't see Brian and Garrison anymore, and so I'm not 100% sure what's going on with it. So we're gonna have to end it at this point. But I appreciate everybody that was hanging in the chat. That was just Andrew. So appreciate all the interaction. And we will definitely be back next week to talk about episode 3. Earl, you're on mute. I don't know what's going on. This thing is completely jacked up right now.
Where's Jacob?
Yeah, Jacob just couldn't make it tonight. So
okay.
If you are watching us live, I appreciate it. And if you are watching us on delay, apologize for all the technical issues, but we will try and get those resolved for next week. And we will be back at that time. Sorry, I am all discombobulated because of these technical issues. So
he's fixed.
No, it's not on my end. So we're out of here. Wow, I cannot end the stream.
All right, guys.
We are still
We'll
live.
see you next week.
What